You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Coming up, the Kansas Attorney General files murder charges against a Coffeyville man.
We've got a wet week ahead of us. We'll start with thunderstorms on a Monday and already flood warnings in effect. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
And music's biggest trade show makes a comeback. All that and more coming up.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. A Missouri man who wore an ankle monitor during a bank robbery in Independence, Kansas, issues a guilty plea. Paul Gordon says he robbed Equity Bank more than a year ago when he walked in and handed a bank teller a note that said, quote, "I got a gun. Don't do anything stupid. Put the money in the bag," end quote. The teller gave Gordon $460. Gordon left the scene, but he was able to be tracked, and that's because he was wearing an ankle monitor that he had to wear from a previous Missouri case. The ankle monitor tracked Gordon to his exact location. He will return to court August 19th for sentencing hearing. Kansas Attorney General files first-degree murder charges in a Coffeyville man's death. Authorities say 61-year-old David Jackson of Coffeyville shot and killed Melvin Simpson Jr. on May 14th inside Jackson's apartment. He remains in the Montgomery County Jail on a $1 million bond. One person is dead following an accident on I-44. That accident shut the eastbound stretch of the highway down at exit 4 just before 2:30 Sunday morning. Joplin Police Major Crash Team were called to the scene. Interstate closed for around 3.5 hours. Joplin Police Department is expected to release more information today. And the search continues for 3 inmates from Berry County Sheriff's Office who escaped on Friday. 29-year-old Lance Stevens, 29-year-old Matthew Crawford, and 37-year-old Christopher Blevins escaped from the Berry County Jail. Stevens was being held on drug charges and unlawful use of a weapon. Crawford was held on felony stealing and Blevins on drug charges, vehicle tampering, and unlawful possession of a firearm. The 3 men are considered armed and dangerous. The Sheriff's Office says if you see them or know their whereabouts, do not approach them. Call 911 immediately. A Coffeyville, Kansas man pleads no contest in the fatal accidental shooting of a Chanute teenager. Authorities say 19-year-old Traven Hayes Smith accidentally shot and killed 15-year-old Nasha Gregory at a Coffeyville home in March. He pleaded no contest to charges of involuntary manslaughter and aggravated endangerment of a child. He's set to be sentenced July 18th. Senator Moran on hand last Friday to announce a special honor for a Pittsburgh resident. Johnny Bama and his late twin brother Louis served in Southeast Asia during World War II as part of the Merrill's Marauders. In 2020, Congress approved legislation to give the Marauders the Congressional Gold Medal for their service. On Friday, Johnny and Louis' family were awarded that medal.
The country needs to see that there are people who are willing to do things that are more important than just themselves. And that's what this represents today. Honoring an individual and hoping that the rest of the country behaves the way that these 2 men did during World War II.
Medal was awarded during a ceremony at Pitt State's Veterans Memorial. Well, some local kids spent the nice weather fishing over the weekend. The Neosho National Fish Hatchery hosted a free kids fishing derby. Kids between the ages of 7 and 12 and their families were able to cast a line and fish for trout in the hatchery. They were also able to take home any fish they caught.
This is just a day to actually give back to the community. To get these kids out, get them engaged in the great outdoors is the number one, number one goal here.
The equipment used on Friday, like fishing poles and lures, was donated by local residents. Well, Joplin woman is the victim of identity theft. Denise Ramey says she was contacted on Facebook from who she thought was an old friend, and the friend stated they had a great deal where he just received $90,000 and said it was easy. All that she had to do was provide her personal information. After she gave that information, they second-guessed their decision, immediately contacted the bank to watch for fraudulent activity. Denise says the conversation seemed real.
A friend from where I grew up in New York asked me how I was feeling because I just had cervical surgery a couple of months before that. And so I got off and talked to him, and one thing led to another, and he started talking about a grant that he had just gotten a huge amount of money from. And he said, and I asked him what it was about, and he said it was a gradient.
Denise says she worked at a bank for years, so she swore it would never happen to her. Well, today may be another chance to show your garden more love, that it's National Gardening Exercise Day, if you can find a break in the rain. On June 6th, all gardeners or wannabe gardeners are encouraged to show off their skills, not only for your plants, but for your health as well. Gardening has several benefits, like keeping or building muscles, and the exercise you get doing it is a stress reliever. You celebrate this day by planting some seeds or cleaning your garden, and while at it, snap a photo and share it on social media using the hashtag Gardening Exercise Day.
Ground will be nice and soft.
Nice and wet. You won't need to water.
Oh, my goodness, no. There are places out in Labette County that have gotten anywhere from 4 to 5 inches of precipitation in the last 24 hours alone. And we've got several more mornings that are going to be just about like what we are encountering right now. We still have southwest Missouri being dominated by rain. We even have the pockets of the heavy stuff still hanging on south of I-44 in between Mount Vernon and Monette. I guess one positive aspect of it is our lightning has tremendously calmed down. But once again, it's kind of on a north-south line. We've got a little bit that's formulated back to the west. This is not coming down as hard as it was when it was up by Iola, but now it's extended itself from the northwest down to the southeast, really lasting all the way down to Columbus, so that'll be approaching Joplin as well. As a matter of fact, what we can kind of do here as it approaches 7th and Range Line, let's take the tower camera and let's face it off that way and anticipate that rain coming here in, I'd say about the next 20 minutes or so. So we'll concentrate on that. We also have flood warnings throughout southeast Kansas. That icon that you see, that circular icon right there in Parsons in Labette County. Well, earlier this morning, they had hail 7/10 of an inch in diameter. Now, as we get past the 7 o'clock hour, we'll get multiple storm reports that'll file in here as far as exactly how much rain we have seen fall since last night. Current conditions over 7th and Range Line, 67 degrees. Not much movement in our temperatures, even though we're a good hour past sunrise. We're kind of stuck in the mid-60s right now. As we work toward the afternoon, we're actually getting a little sunshine later on today, and that's why if you want to get out in the garden, I'm just going to tell you right now, it's going to be rather humid out there with the amount of moisture that's going to be sticking around. And more moisture to come, because here we go for Tuesday morning. It'll be on us for the drive. You'll also notice too how it likes to dominate more so the southern portion of the 4 states, and that'll be a key not only for Tuesday. Oh, you guessed it, we're going to roll Wednesday as well. Finally get a break and shouldn't have to worry about rain on Thursday, but then here we go from Friday into Saturday.
All right. Well, coming up, a new study says LGBTQ teens are more vulnerable to suicidal thoughts and behaviors. And later, another study reveals gaming is good for your brain. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. In Health Watch this morning, physical therapy is going virtual. Patients at one health center in Little Rock, Arkansas could be entering a simulated world in order to help their mobility in the real one. Claire Cruz has more on the story.
Sensors strapped in, headset on.
Let's try a different game here.
I got to put the new virtual reality system at the Baptist Health Rehabilitation Institute in Little Rock to the test.
Lean forwards.
Lou Treader is a physical therapist here and says the real immersive system can be used for a wide range of patients.
We see a lot of neuro patients, so stroke, brain injury, spinal cord, but we also see orthopedic patients.
Each game targets a different area, whether it's balance.
Say our patient has difficulty with sitting balance, moving forwards and backwards and reaching towards items.
Or range of motion.
I missed all of them.
All while recording progress and giving feedback along the way.
So maybe they start out only being able to bend their arm maybe 90 degrees, and we can program it to, for certain games, that they get positive reinforcement if they get to that 100-degree range or 120-degree range or on up to a normal range.
While working their body, most of these scenarios also have a component to work the mind as well.
To work on their memory or sequencing of different items.
While some games I passed with flying colors,
Fantastic.
others were a little more challenging.
I quit.
Okay.
But overall, Treader says this tool helps patients tap into their competitive side while making them stronger day after day.
The more engaged they are in the activity, the more they buy into it, the more likely they are to reach the goals that they're trying to attain.
A new study finds overall cancer screenings in the U.S. declined significantly during the pandemic. Research at the American Cancer Society confirms drop-offs by the millions in screening rates for breast, cervical, and colorectal cancer during 2020. The results show the decline in screening disproportionately impacted people of color and people of low income. Well, new research suggests persistent disparities in access to a life-saving opioid dependence treatment. A Mayo Clinic study looked at more than 3,000 prescriptions of buprenorphine across the U.S. and found medication was consistently lower for people 41 and older, women, and Black and Hispanic people. LGBTQ teens are more vulnerable to suicidal thoughts and behavior. And that's according to research in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. Data gathered from 6,800 adolescents shows 14% of sexual minority youth were seriously considering suicide. Transgender youth were at highest risk, 5 times as likely to attempt suicide. On Friday, a model of the Empire State Building was symbolically illuminated in purple and gold to honor the Platinum Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II. The British Consul General to New York, Emma Wade Smith, joined British-American songwriter Mark Ronson to flip the switch, which lit up the model of the landmark skyscraper. Platinum Jubilee celebration marks the British monarch's 7 decades on the throne. Empire State Building itself was illuminated on Saturday night to honor the Queen's history-making reign.
So they actually did the big building, not just the model that we saw?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was curious about. I was like, oh, they did a model, and then you said that they actually illuminated the building itself. Now it makes a little more sense.
It makes sense because there they are in. You can't be inside the model.
Well, I don't know, because I mean, if the Mets had won that night, they may have illuminated it blue and orange. You know, Mets are on a roll. No offense to the Queen. Mets are playing good baseball right now. Yankees.
Well, they could have picked her she had a 4-day period where they could have picked it for the Jubilee celebration. They didn't have
between
to
the
do it
Yankees
Friday.
and Mets, they may not have lost. And the Rangers, they're in the NHL playoffs. We've got a lot of things to illuminate here. And she's in another continent.
Yes, it's kind of impressive they decided to do it anyway. They didn't have to. Yeah.
You don't think it should just be for the Rangers, the Yankees, and the Mets? You think it should be for the Queen? Go ahead. They got their own buildings they can illuminate. Illuminate your own buildings during that celebration, not ours.
Maybe they have fans too in New York.
Could be. I don't know. Kind of one of those mornings outside of Television City, overcast, drab, daily almanac, where we picked up already 3/4 of an inch of rain at Joplin Regional Airport, and for the year, eclipsing now 27 inches of precipitation. Here we are on the Skywatch Storm Tracker. We're watching this one in the Monette, Mount Vernon area. That it kind of popped up in Newton County right there, and is now making its way to the east. And then, of course, we've got the elongated band on the eastern edge of southwest Missouri. A little bit of backfill is what we're looking at through southeast Kansas. When we talk about what's transpired in the past 24 hours, the yellow, that's going to be 3 inches. But I want to come in here to Labette County, where we've got 5 inches of rain along Highway 160. Just absolutely amazing what we've seen transpire in 2022 so far. Flood warnings countywide in the lime green. We also have river-specific warnings for the Little Osage, the Fall River, and also the Neosho River in the Miami Commerce area. 67 degrees over Joplin. Big factor this morning was the wind, and at least it came in from the south. Now you can tell it's got a little bit of a swirl to it as the system moves through. But if we can keep that coming in from the south, that's going to really help us out temperature-wise, because if that thing would have blown in from the north this morning, ooh, that will put a chill in the air along with that rain. Weather trend for today, lift up into the 80s, even a little sunshine later on this afternoon, but just get ready for additional rainfall each and every morning as we get ready to head out the door. It is on us, especially for our central and southern portions for Tuesday morning and Wednesday morning. That's really where we're going to see that build up. 7-day forecast, not really going to get a break until Thursday. We'll be back with more KOAM morning news on Fox 14 right after this. I think we've all heard it, parents saying you won't amount to anything unless you put down that video game. Well, it turns out maybe the opposite is true. Eamon Dignam with more on this edition of our Fox on Games series.
If you're of a certain age, you may remember hearing your parents telling you those video games will rot your brain. But a new study by Scientific Reports shows that might be wrong. The study is called The Impact of Digital Media on Children's Intelligence While Controlling for Genetic Differences in Cognition and Socioeconomic Background. It sounds complicated, but its conclusions are simple. After 2 years, gaming positively impacted intelligence of kids 8 through 12. The study involved almost 10,000 preteens looking into the habits of those who spend 4 to 6 hours every day in front of a screen. Their focus is on impact of screen time on intelligence, the ability to learn effectively, think rationally, understand complex ideas, and adapt to new situations. They also say, unexpectedly, watching videos also benefited intelligence, contrary to prior research on the effects of watching TV. Boys on average spent about twice as much time gaming than girls, with boys also spending more time watching others game. In New York, Eamon Dignam, Fox News.
Transition over to the Skywatch Storm Tracker, where we're tracking this pocket of heavy rain along I-44. If you're going to be on I-49, everything looking pretty good. If you're going to be on 44, you're either going to run into it on your way down to Tulsa, or you're going to be chasing it on your way to Springfield. So it's 6 1/2 dozen. 49 is not really going to affect you until you get into Benton County in northwest Arkansas. If you take 49 up to the north, it's smooth sailing pretty much all the way to Kansas City. So just apprised of some travel conditions there. Weather trend for today, going to push up into the 80s. We're just waiting on the rain to get out of here. We've still got about half an hour left to give you an idea on future track here. As it pushes out to the east, then we begin our warm-up. We'll even get some afternoon sunshine. But remember, flood warnings until this evening and more rain coming Tuesday morning. Be back with more KOAM morning news on Fox 14 right after this.
It's time to honor today's four-state hero, Donald Nelson. Sergeant Nelson served in the Army from 1941 to 1945. He served with the 35th Division of Military Police and the 5th Ranger Company E in Germany and in France. During his service, he earned the Purple Heart, Bronze Star, ETO Medal, and the French Croix de Guerre Medal. Native of Coffeyville, Kansas, we thank you, today's four-state hero, Sergeant Donald Nelson. Well, giant trade shows were sidelined during the pandemic, and one of the biggest music-related gatherings is back. Rick Damigella reports.
The last time the National Association of Music Merchants held its annual NAMM Show event was January 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic pulled the plug on the convention in 2021, but the music industry gathering is back on this weekend in Anaheim, California.
It's terrifying and exhilarating. It's like a startup, right? I mean, you don't do something for 2.5 years, you really got to get that muscle memory back, and the crews and all the people that go into making an event of that size. We're probably half the size we were in 2020. That was our high water mark in 120 years. That was the largest NAMM show in history. So we're in kind of a rebuilding. We got about half the number of brands, half the number of attendees likely, although that won't know till we're done counting at the end.
Even at a smaller scale, the NAMM Show will feature numerous brands like Black Star Amplification and new product launches, including an instrument from Martin Guitars and the Black Crowes' Rich Robinson, inspired by a Martin his father played.
I would borrow his guitar and mess around with it, although he wasn't too happy about that. But I thought it was kind of a cool way to pay tribute to him and to this and to his musical influence on us. I mean, his appreciation for music really seeped into my brother and I.
The NAMM show is already planning its return to Anaheim in 2023. In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
Pretty cool. Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14, the premiere day for Ms. Marvel. Right around the corner, Rick Damigella returns with a sneak peek on the new series. And gas prices continue to skyrocket across the country. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:30. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Artificial technology and specialized sensors are currently being used to detect concealed weapons on people entering some of the nation's sports stadiums and concert arenas. And now, in the wake of several mass shootings, some are asking whether gun detection software can help increase public safety and other facets. Ashley Stromier has more.
The mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, triggering renewed calls for gun reform. But as lawmakers on Capitol Hill debate, the nation faced another weekend marred by gun violence, with at least 3 dead and 11 others hurt in Philadelphia Saturday night, and at least 3 more dead and 14 others injured outside a nightclub in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Sunday morning. Solutions in the wake of such tragedies vary, but some local officials, like New York City Mayor Eric Adams, are eyeing gun detection software as a possible step forward, especially after a gunman shot at least 10 people and injured several others on a crowded Brooklyn subway car back in April.
Technology that could identify a gun. And I want to bring that, move it around in the subway system.
These tools are already implemented by Evolve Technology in hundreds of public spaces, including theaters, stadiums, office buildings, and schools.
The Evolve Express is designed to detect concealed threats as people walk through. We use a combination of advanced sensors and artificial intelligence.
After a person is scanned, Evolve's technology alerts nearby guards of any potential firearms and where they may be hiding on someone's body.
In the first 3 months of this year, we screened over 51 million people through our systems. And in that period of time, we detected and prevented over 10,000 guns from getting into those venues.
While increasing public safety is important, critics say it would be nearly impossible to effectively use this software in subway systems, citing the need for additional officers to work in tandem with the machines and other logistical concerns. Ashley Strohmeyer, Fox News.
A local foundation hosts an event to stick it to cancer. The Mercy Health Foundation hosted a dinner from area restaurants with a twist. Everything is served on a stick. It also featured live music. All the proceeds from the event will fund equipment and programs to benefit area cancer patients.
It feels really good to be able to get back together, just to see our providers, see patients, see community members come together for the greater good. Every single person knows somebody, loves somebody who either has had cancer or who has cancer, and to know that what we're doing here tonight will help.
MC of the event, our very own Chief Meteorologist Doug Hetty. The event was hosted at the Sterling Event Center. A Joplin organization dedicated to helping women in need held a fun event for the community to spread the word about their mission. Loving Grace is a transitional living facility for young women who are either aging out of foster care, pregnant, or homeless, to help them get the resources to support themselves. On Saturday, the organization hosted an event for children and families in the area to come out and learn more about the work they do, while also providing a good time.
We wanted to hold an event that all the families and parents and kids can come and just have a great time, enjoy themselves, and get to know a little bit more about our mission. We also held this event because we want for young women who are in this situation, whether they're aging out of foster care, homeless, have a small child, or pregnant, so they can learn about what we do here. So they can come, they can talk to somebody.
The day was full of activities for kids like bounce houses, face painting, and other outdoor games. To learn more about Loving Grace, you can check out this story on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Well, Columbus, Kansas held its grand opening for the H&H Splash Pad at Discovery Park on Friday for all folks to go out and cool off from the warm weather. The grand opening had live music, food trucks, and the Columbus Fire Rescue grilling for a fireworks fundraiser. The splash pad can be located in the southeast corner of the square. It's a simple toy, but a lot of fun. We're talking about yo-yos, and if you have one, it's time to break it out. That's because Monday, that's today, is National Yo-Yo Day. It's believed the toy was first invented in ancient Greece. The yo-yo started to become popular in the U.S. after Pedro Flores, who immigrated from the Philippines, started his own company in the early 1900s. Donald F. Duncan Sr. further popularized the toy after buying Flores' company. You can celebrate National Yo-Yo Day by practicing some of the more popular tricks, including the sleeper, my favorite, walk the dog, shooting the moon around the world, and hop the fence.
I'm just happy when I get to come back to my hand. What says you about the yo-yo?
I'm not very good at it. I haven't yo-yoed in years.
I have not either. I'm watching these people do these tricks, and no, like I said, I'm just happy when the thing just returns to me. I feel like I've accomplished something.
Yeah, it definitely takes a little
Your kids have yo-yos?
patience learning. I think, you know, like they've all received a yo-yo or two over the years in their stockings, and then they break, disappear, you know, who knows.
I'm with you.
I don't think any of them could locate a yo-yo right now if I asked them to.
Understood. All right, Tanya, we still have this one pocket of rain along Interstate 44. It's pushing to the east, but this thing's been a slow mover, and it is just an absolute downpour in places. That's really the hardest of the rain left on that north-south bend. It's now on the far eastern edge of southwest Missouri. We're getting a little bit out to the west, far west. We're actually even starting to clear our cloud cover. So slowly but surely, we're progressing there. An idea of what we've had in the past 24 hours, consistently 2 to 3 inches, places in Labette County and Montgomery County up around 4 to 5 inches. And of course, that leads us to our flood warnings. Haven't had any additional storm reports other than the 7/10 of diameter of hail that hit Labette County earlier this morning. Eventually this afternoon, a little bit of sunshine up into the 80s, so it's going to feel humid. And remember, tomorrow morning, we've got more thunderstorms coming. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. This morning on the KOAM News Now Insta Poll on our morning Facebook page, talking about pen pals, a woman from Ohio and another woman from Brazil. Pen pals for 33 years, but they'd never met. So the woman living in Brazil made the trip to Ohio, meeting her pen pal for the first time ever. Our question for you, have you ever had a pen pal? Right now, 55% of you say nope, never had that opportunity. 45% of you say yes. Remember when we used to, almost everybody my age or older, I know that it was a big thing to do in elementary school. You can take part each and every morning, KOAMNewsNow.com/vote, and connect to us at our Facebook page, KOAM News Now. Newest Marvel streaming series about a New Jersey high school student stumbling upon superpowers. Our man Rick Damigella with the latest.
You're staring out the window in your little fantasy land.
A new hero arrives in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Ms. Marvel.
Maybe they're right. I spend too much time in Fantasyland.
While the Ms. Marvel moniker has been around longer, the character Kamala Khan is a recent addition to Marvel Comics, debuting in 2013.
She hasn't been in the public consciousness for as long a period of time. So in some ways that gives us freedom, but in other ways it gives us people who we owe, and those people we owe are the fans. And I think that's the bit that you feel such a great deal of responsibility towards them.
Well, let's focus on what we know. Light comes out of you and it hardens.
Let's call it Hard Light.
Groundbreaking.
The series sets up the character who is slated to appear alongside Brie Larson in 2023's Captain Marvel movie sequel, The Marvels.
We're starting with a teenage girl who didn't have powers in Jersey City, and we had to get her match ready for whatever was going to happen in the Marvels.
Amir, if you don't stop praying long enough to put some food in your mouth, one day you will starve to death.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive you one day.
Family is a key component to Kamala's and the show's story.
So your brother told us about your Avengers party?
He did.
We have decided to let you go.
Really? Really.
She's very much the glue that bonds the family, but I mean, the glue is one thing, but you need people to bond it too. So these are the people, you bond it with.
It's not really the brown girls from Jersey City who save the world.
Miss Marvel debuts this Wednesday on Disney+. We'll be back with consumer news right after this.
In Consumer Watch this morning, the U.S. labor market continues to grow. U.S. employers added 390,000 jobs in May. That's according to the latest jobs report released on Friday. The numbers are better than expected amid fears of an economic recession and the Federal Reserve's effort to bring down inflation. Still, despite the growth, prices are increasing and your paycheck may not be keeping up. Gloria Pasmino breaks down the numbers.
The job market is growing steady.
That's a sign of a healthy economy with steady growth, rising wages for working families, everyday costs easing up.
U.S. employers added 390,000 jobs in May. That's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics monthly jobs report released Friday. But despite the growth, inflation remains a top concern.
And there's no denying that high prices, particularly around gasoline and food, are a real problem for people. But there's every reason for the American people to feel confident that we'll meet these challenges.
The unemployment rate stayed at 3.6%. That's slightly higher than the 50-year low recorded in February 2020, just before the start of the pandemic. Leisure and hospitality saw some of the biggest growth, adding 84,000 jobs. The average hourly wage, $31.95, is up 5.2% compared to last year. But despite the gains, Americans are still feeling the pinch.
We're living in a once-in-a-lifetime kind of situation here with the pandemic and the war in Ukraine and other challenges.
While your paycheck may be increasing, it's likely not keeping up with inflation, and fears of a recession are looming.
That hurricane is right out there down the road coming our way.
In New York, I'm Gloria Pasmino.
All this as the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates under pressure to bring down inflation, which is near a 40-year high. Well, gasoline prices continue to rise. The price of Amazon stock should look different, and a movie about fighter pilots continue to gun down the competition at the box office. Elise Preston has more.
Prices continue to climb. AAA says the national average for a gallon of regular hit $4.84 a gallon. California remains the most expensive state to fill the tank, with a gallon averaging $6.32. Sanctions on Russian oil and gas and the summer driving season are putting pressure on prices at the pump. Don't worry today when you see a significantly lower share price for Amazon.com. Amazon's 20-for-1 stock split goes into effect at the opening bell. That means each Amazon share, which traded above $2,400 Friday, will become 20 separate shares today. With Amazon expected to start the session at around $120, the split brings the stock within reach for small investors. And Top Gun Maverick, starring Tom Cruise, is still flying high at the box office. The film from Paramount Global, the parent company of CBS and Paramount Pictures, took in an estimated $86 million in its second weekend on the big screen. The flick debuted with $124 million over the Memorial Day weekend, marking Cruise's biggest opening yet.
We'll be right back with more after this, but first, let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
One of the world's biggest country music festivals has made a notable addition to its list of items fans cannot bring inside. David Daniel with that and more. He has today's Hollywood Minute.
The Country Music Association Festival has banned Confederate flag imagery. In a statement to the Tennessean newspaper, the CMA said, "Any behavior that causes one of our attendees to fear for their personal safety will not be tolerated, and that is inclusive of any displays of the Confederate flag." This year's CMA Fest is June 9th to the 12th in Nashville. Stranger Things, using Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill, not only put the 1985 song back on the streaming charts, it brought a response from Bush herself. The reclusive singer-songwriter, who rarely licenses her music for film or television, issued a rare statement saying the tune has a whole new lease on life by the young fans who love the show. I love it too. I wait with bated breath for the rest of the series in July.
This could be my last chance.
Sony took another chance on Morbius, reopening the movie in more than 1,000 theaters. If you missed it, you weren't alone. The living vampire flick made just $300,000, less than at least 5 other films playing on fewer screens, in its first and possibly last weekend back in theaters. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Open up our daily almanac on this June the 6th, and 3/4 of an inch of rain at Joplin Regional Airport so far. That's a tame number compared to some other places across the 4 states. As far as what's still left, here we are. We're tracking this one on I-44 right along the interstate and moving off to the east. If you're headed towards Springfield, you're simply going to be chasing the rain all day long. Run into a little bit if you have to head down to Tulsa as well. 49 really looking good, especially if you have to take off to the north. Highway 400, not too bad. Working west all the way to Wichita, may run into just a little scattered light rain trying to make its way into Crawford County, into Jasper County right now. But that's about the extent of it. Now, we talked about those rain totals. The good doctor, Wayne Gilmore, checking in at Parsons, told me he got 3.7 inches. And speaking of the Parsons area, if we drop just south of Parsons into Labette County, that's where we've seen anywhere from 5 to 5.5 inches of rain. Even as you work through portions of northern southwest Missouri, we're going to see upwards of 2.5, close to 3 inches. So we're inundated, and we have countywide flood warnings indicated in the lime green. We've got some specific rivers with flood warnings as well. The one out by Fredonia and Neodesha, that is going to be the Fall River. Then down here to the south, we've got in Miami and Commerce, that's the Neosho River. Up here to the north, we've got the Little Osage, and these are lasting until the middle of the week, because we're going to tack on more rain each morning on top of what we already have. 67 degrees over 7th and Rangeline. Thermometer just has not moved. At least the wind has calmed down a little bit. Earlier this morning, when the storm system really picked up, we had some gusts of 30 miles per hour that were rolling through with that. So far, no reports of any storm damage. Give you an idea of the severe thunderstorm risk map, exactly what we've got in store. Now, once again, we find ourselves just below that marginal category. So wind and hail, not a threat. No, it's just flooding. And it's going to be a little bit humid this afternoon. I want to point that out as well. As the clouds part, we get some late sunshine and work up into the 80s, but the moisture, especially our Gulf moisture, sticking around. So here's what we'll have in store for the rest of the week, especially for our south and central portions. Each morning when we get ready to leave, it's going to roll through, and there we are for Tuesday morning. Then we break in the afternoon. Tuesday looks like it wants to hold on a little bit longer than what it is today. And then, hey, for Wednesday morning, you guessed it, down to the south once again, just in time for the old morning commute. 7-day forecast. We will get a break on Thursday, but more rain expected on Friday. Mild weekend, cooler temps coming off of Friday's system, where we'll only be in the 70s on Saturday and Sunday. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on FOX14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. At least 8 cities are grappling with the aftermath of mass shootings that took place over the weekend. In a popular nightlife spot in Philadelphia, hundreds of people ran for cover when shots rang out. At least 3 people were killed and a dozen injured. In Chattanooga, Tennessee, at least 3 people were killed in a shooting near a nightclub. 14 others were injured by gunfire and 3 hit by vehicles trying to flee the scene. Russia launches an airstrike in the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv over the weekend, the first time the area has been hit since the end of April. Russia claimed the missile destroyed tanks donated from abroad, but Ukrainian authorities say the now destroyed building made railway vehicles. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin is warning that any Western deliveries of longer-range rocket systems will compel Russia to attack areas not yet hit. And the first named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season is hammering Bermuda. Alex reached tropical storm force after passing through South Florida and leaving some areas flooded. Storm also killed 3 people in Cuba.
Going to ride this out and actually have a nice afternoon. We've got to wait for this to pass off to the east. But remember, Each and every morning up until the middle of the week, we're going to have additional rainfall. Looks like we're really going to target the central and southern portion of the 4 states on Tuesday and Wednesday before we finally break on Thursday.
Well, a small plane made an emergency landing Friday morning in Cole County, Missouri. This single-engine prop plane went down in a field southwest of Jefferson City. Missouri State Highway Patrol troopers said the pilot had to maneuver the plane under power lines and over a fence. First responders say no one was hurt.
All the runways at Columbia Regional must have been full. Running joke I used to have about Columbia Regional Airport. Occasionally we let pigeons fly out. That is where I spent Y2K in the tower of Columbia Regional Airport on a live shot, which I dutifully reported, Jim, everything here is fine. Can I please come back to the station? Thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning. We'll be back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.